Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and we're going to be doing a post-debate analysis. I watched the debate last night. Um, I didn't see too much of the post-debate from other channels. I did see some clips from Fox and from CNN of their post-debate, and a little bit by the BBC. But that's about it. So I haven't watched Megyn Kelly or Piers Morgan or anyone's analysis. Um, so we'll play it and then I'll interject, give you my opinion with some Dr. Paul Cottrell flair, I guess. So this is going to be PNN critiquing CNN and some of my observations. And maybe you have a similar observation too, especially with Dana Bash. But before we begin, please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. And I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Okay. It's really important that you subscribe to all of those channels. Now, people would say, oh, why do I need to subscribe to all the channels? The problem is that there's a lot of censorship on YouTube, but yet the traffic is on YouTube. So I have it, it's whack-a-mole. If I say something that gets a strike, you're not going to, see the content if you're only on one of the YouTube channels. So it's really important to subscribe to all of the channels, all 7 channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Okay. Unfortunately, the traffic is not on, most of the eyeballs are on YouTube and not of the other channels. There's too much consumer behavior going towards YouTube. All right. It's a big problem. And eventually YouTube will be terrible for average channels. It's going to turn into mainstream media. Trust me on that. So just make sure that you subscribe to all the channels, especially the Rumble, Bitchute, and Brighteon. Now, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. That way you can help support my work because most of my videos are for free. It's through donations that allows me to be able to provide thousands of videos that are free. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description. And if you can donate, you can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon channel. Link is in the description of this video. By doing that, you can get special benefits if you're a tier 2, tier 3, or tier 4 member on Patreon. You'll get additional access to certain medical lectures that I do on immunology and pulmonology and subsequent lecture series. I'm going to be doing another module on infectious diseases and potentially also on some perspectives on certain patients, like case studies, especially in a clinical setting. So it's important to help support the work, and you can do that by donating. Another way you can help support the work is purchasing the products that I have on my store. I have ebooks, I have supplements, I have lecture series that you can purchase that will help support your health, help support my work, and allow you to get informed. So please help support by donating, by purchasing the products, by subscribing and sharing. For the ones that have done this, especially on a regular basis, I appreciate your help through the donations and through purchasing the products. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Since this is CNN and hosting the debate, and I'm PNN, right? Please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and purchase some of the products that I have, like the toothpaste. All right. This is a structural nano silver toothpaste. It will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, neutralize pathogens, reduce that gum irritation, and through good oral hygiene, you're going to have better cardiovascular health. All right. You will mitigate the problems of vascular disease, and will mitigate the problems with blockage and vascular disease. Good oral hygiene is really important. This is the best toothpaste you're going to be able to get. Way better than anything Alex Jones says. All right. So go to my store and get a couple tubes of this, or a few tubes of this. It's fully in stock in my store. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the toothpaste. In addition, because there's lots of, changes of swings in weather with rain, and then, it gets back to, humidity, and then, there's this up and down, especially on the East Coast. I've heard people having problems also on the West Coast, but allergy season is now, right? There's pollen in the air, and people get irritated. You want to mitigate that irritation by taking the lozenges and the drops that I have. I have elderberry zinc lozenges in a 21 count. I also have in drops honey and lemon in a 100 count, and blueberry in a 100 count. These you take right away, right when you start getting that little irritation. You take some lozenges or drops, and it'll soothe that irritation, all right, and mitigate that allergic reaction response. These help to boost up your immune system, help to maintain that mucus barrier, soothe that irritation, all right, and reduce the chances of further complications like rhinitis, or some drainage getting into your pulmonary system. All right, you want to mitigate that. The moment that you start feeling that you're having some sort of allergic reaction, or that you may be coming down with something, you want to take lozenges and drops right away, because you want to get those secretions and build up that mucosal barrier to be able to fight it. All right. You do this right at the very beginning, you're not going to have those type 1 hypersensitivity reactions as bad for most people. All right. It's really important to get a couple bags of these drops and lozenges for your household and mitigate allergic reactions, through pollen. With that said, let's begin with the debate.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President.
All right. Now, there's going to be questions like climate change and abortion rights and all this, right? They have a really big studio here. Lots of screens, taking energy. This is, I believe, in Atlanta, and they have an air conditioner going. Okay, big room for only 4 people and some camera crew. All right, and lighting and audio crew. Really big room. I'm pretty sure it has a large carbon footprint, but they're going to demonize the average citizen on, we're the cause of climate change. The problem is that the establishment, the intelligentsia, the ones that are the upper crust of society socioeconomically, want to maintain their lifestyle and carbon footprint and mitigate yours. In addition, Dina is in all white, which is a female wearing all white, especially on an occasion like this, is about suffrage, women's suffrage, all right? The first question that she brings up happens to be about abortion. This is orchestrated, all right? And they're playing to the psychological dynamics of the audience. So don't think that they're not biased, because they are very biased.
Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State.
I'm willing to bet that that's not a suit that she's wearing from Macy's, all right? Now, there's nothing wrong with Macy's clothing. I mean, it's high quality at a decent price. But I'm pretty sure that she went to a really expensive boutique for that outfit. And oh, by the way, to make clothing like that takes a lot of energy, and there's a lot of waste that pollutes the planet. Dana. Oh.
Dana and I will co-moderate this.
That ain't her real color hair. So she dyes it.
And our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determines their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone...
Because I did watch this debate last night. I think from previous debates with all that screaming over the mic and it just became free-for-all, like a Jerry Springer show, cutting off the mic, I think, was a very good thing. And it helped to tone it down. My perspective, even though we haven't even started the debate yet, is that there's too much fighting on stage, screaming on stage, too much arguing in debates, also during, op-ed pieces on channels like CNN or Piers Morgan or whatever, right? Kind of need to tone it down. Let's just listen. Let's have a vigorous debate, but it doesn't have to be a shouting match, not like a Jerry Springer. And this is a problem that I'm seeing with X. X has a tendency, and social media in general has a tendency to just bring out the bad in people and not the good. And, create division and create animosity. Now, I understand why this is happening. One, it sells. People are superficial and they prefer a Jerry Springer show. Most people are not intellectual. Most people want the bread and circus, because that's the lowest common denominator. It takes the least amount of effort. Water rolls downhill, it's the least effort. So with that said,
is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes props or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden. And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
You see, you look at the way they're walking. All right, just the walk. Right? The debate hasn't even started, and Biden is, he has that gait issue. He has to really concentrate as he's walking. He may have, some early signs of Parkinson's. I'm not sure, but he's having a gait issue, and he has to think while he's walking, which unfortunately is poor signs for geriatric health. It has been shown, especially with research that comes from Japan, that if elderly walk and think while they're walking on a regular basis, that their outcomes in geriatric mental health and cognitive ability actually improves, and their mobility improves. So you want to walk and think together, right? And so that's why I keep on saying walk and challenging your mind is very important as a holistic approach to improving your health. Classic example with Biden is that that's not the case. I mean, he's having problems walking, right? So the earlier the better with moderate exercise and cognitive challenging your mind, then you're going to mitigate, slow down that. Now, it's not the only thing, it's proper nutrition and diet and everything, and genetics plays a part into it, but he's aging, and he's aging fast. You have Trump, who's slightly younger than Biden, but he's walking in like a lion. It's like he's just walking in. I mean, he's not, he's walking in comfortable, and he's and just kind of like he's going to control the room. Yeah, Biden and his gait, and he has to really think to be able to get to the podium. All right, but Trump just kind of walking in, like a lion. Yeah. Another perfect example of this was during the funeral of George Bush Sr. At that time, President Trump was still in office, and he comes in last, probably because of security. All right. And as he's going down the aisle with his wife and Secret Service, you can tell that he was more in control of the room because of his personality, that lion kind of walk, right, that he has. It's like, I don't really care, but if you try to attack me, I'm going to tear off your head. Kind of walk, all right? He did that during the funeral for President Bush, and he's kind of having that walk on stage here, right? Confident, but like a lion, right? Big difference, big difference. Right just by the walk, you can see the cognitive prowess of Trump versus Biden.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
You got to take a look at what I was left with.
Just look at that face. He looks like a deer in the headlights. I'm telling you, he's got serious mental decline. Serious mental decline. Sad, and we haven't even started yet. All right. And you got the gate issue and you got the deer in the headlight. Look, now I know a little bit about this. One, because of my medical training, and two, because my father has ischemic dementia. All right. And people that have ischemic dementia and they can't talk and they're in nursing care, right? You know, they have that almost, you know, once in a while he seems to understand what we're saying. He can't talk, right? But he has that kind of like lost face. I'll call it the lost face look, or kind of like, you know, it's not all there. You know, it's almost like my father lost his soul, you know, in a way. He seems to understand what we're saying, but his attention span is really short. So, you know, there's a lot, you know, I know a little bit about this because I'm living through it with my father, right? And it sucks, right? The problem is that you have a cabinet, you have a national security state, and you have a party, the Democratic Party, that doesn't want to be honest with his cognitive ability. Now, any trained nurse, physician assistant, medical student, practicing physician, surgeon, whatever. To be honest, all right, it's obvious that he has cognitive decline. So why did the national security state and his cabinet and his VP and the Democratic Party pretend for the last 3 years that he doesn't? That's dangerous. I mean, literally, he looks like he shit his pants. We haven't even started.
President, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right.
Biden, why is your throat so froggy, so dry? Oh, is that a side effect of some drugs you're taking?
The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought on a position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come from households where the kitchen tables and things weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing.
You came from simple beginnings, President Biden. Okay, we get that. We've heard this for 50 years. The problem is you have been on the take. And you are no longer you're no longer really lunch bucket Joe. You're a multimillionaire. And you don't, not only that, you didn't even do it legitimately. You've been on the take. And you had the national security state hiding it. Oh, how do you know that, Dr. Paul Cottrell? The evidence is with Hunter Biden and the companies that he was affiliated with, and the kickbacks, and the accounts. And there's a lot of one company paying another company kind of stuff. It sounds a lot like what the CIA did in Europe right after World War II.
Whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination that was left with the corporate greed.
Let me get this straight. You're gonna give incentive to build new housing units. Great. Places like New York need more residential units that are spacious, that are affordable. Now, through the invisible hand of Adam Smith and just letting capitalism work, increasing supply, especially when you have demand, all right, will help to control prices through the invisible hand. You don't need to have social programs in place to cap, because what that is a controlled economy, and controlled economies don't work. They fall apart. They never work. It may seem like they're working in a very short run, but in the long run, they collapse. Because what happens is when you artificially price either too high or too low from the equilibrium of the supply and demand curve, then there's an inefficiency difference, and it's as if you shifted the curve. All right. And what will happen is the economy isn't going to be running efficiently. You need to let the invisible hand work. Now, it makes a lot of sense to improve the number of units available in terms of quality and in terms of price. That makes a lot of sense, but putting caps is a bad idea. Socialism is a bad idea.
This is why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos. Literally chaos. And so,
Trump, pre-COVID, pre-crisis of 2020, all right, had a roaring economy, very low unemployment, the highest employment for Blacks ever, controlling our energy supply, reducing costs, reducing regulation, and then all of a sudden something is released to hurt his presidency. And we want to now blame it on Trump. You know what? It was your administration, Biden, while you were vice president with Barack Obama, that the gain of function research was outsourced officially. Oh, don't forget that, Biden. Don't forget that the assembly of these different versions were taking place at different laboratories, especially in the United States and in China, of the SARS-CoV-2 platform. This is where Trump went wrong. He should have said that the gain of function research was happening under the Obama-Biden administration.
Yeah, we created, I said, those jobs. We made sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people. To $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. In the situation, we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table. And that's what we're going to get done.
People keep on forgetting the president of the United States runs the executive branch. The executive branch has equal power as the legislative branch and the judicial branch. This is called balance of power, checks and balances. You can't do anything unless the White House, the executive branch, is in line with legislative bills, and that those bills are constitutional. So this concept of getting on stage and going, I'm going to do this. No, you're not, if you don't have Congress on your side or the Constitution on your side. I'm gonna, yeah, right, buddy. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, President Trump.
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We
Pre-COVID.
have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back.
Mandates is a really bad idea because guess what? Medicine is an evolving science. All right, we know we know less about how the body really works than what we do know. All right, and it's going to be an evolving science, and in some disciplines, it's arcane on how they treat disease. All right, but it's an evolving science. And the problem is there's just too much hubris within the medical profession. Now, there's some reasons why that is. Some of it's legal, some of it's administrative, some of it is just spending so much time thinking you know it all. All right. But the bottom line is this: mandates were a terrible idea for multiple reasons. I don't need to go into the details. You know what they are, right? Constitutional issues and biological issues. But Trump needed to hit hard and say the Biden administration with Obama, the Obama administration with Biden, I should say, did the gain of function research. But so did the Bush administration, all right? Because you got to remember, the SARS-CoV-2 platform started its assembly in 2008, all right? The reality of the situation is that this arc goes all the way back to 2001, just before 9/11, all right? And then some of the basic research goes all the way back to the mid 80s, like 86. So that's near the tail end of the Reagan administration. All right. So, there's Republican and Democrats that were involved in the whole arc of development. All right. But the key here is that the gain of function research was officially moved to other locations under the Obama administration. Trump knows that. He needed to hit. This is the problem with Trump. He's like a lion. He's trying to be, presidential on stage, but there's certain times that you have to hit, and you have to hit hard. And so when they try to do the fact checking, and they go, wait a minute, Barack Obama did decide to put a moratorium on at least officially, officially for the gain of function research, and they moved it over to Wuhan. Why didn't President Trump say this?
A country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, the bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President Biden.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks that we have the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact that
All you got to do, Biden, is tell your economic advisor to go to the St. Louis Fed, the Federal Reserve, the St. Louis Federal Reserve website. And there's a big database that shows a lot of stuff. All right. And the bottom line is this: pre-COVID, Trump did an excellent job in running the economy. COVID was an orchestrated effort to bring down Trump.
there is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant in the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. Truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
You want to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
Not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. Now, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations,
And you got this like deer in the headlight look again, right? All you got to do is watch those videos of us leaving the airport in Afghanistan, and you know the reports of the 13 soldiers getting killed. I'll tell you, our rollout of Afghanistan was terrible. Now there's a bigger issue going on here. You had a military industrial complex that didn't want to stop the war during the Trump administration. All right. So not only was he, you know, he kept on pushing, you know, it's time to get out. It's time to get out. You know, this never-ending war, 20-year war in the Middle East is over. But you have generals pushing back, pushing back, pushing back.
That soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before. And we
This
were
is
ready to
important
start
that
paying
people
down.
need to realize that we need to rebuild our manufacturing base. One, for many reasons. One, it allows for jobs. It allows for innovation because by doing, you innovate. You can't outsource innovation. You've got to do to be innovative. And it also allows us to have a stronger footing to be able to manufacture for a war if we need to. All right. When you move your manufacturing out of the country, you're more beholden to other countries. Now, there are some reasons why they do that. One, it's cheaper costs, but a big part of it is to make sure that you have a country taking American dollars. So they have to take those American dollars and invest it in American assets, such as treasuries. So what it is it's an incentive for Congress and the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve to print more money because there's more demand for dollars through this kind of mechanism. They can't do as much of that game if you bring back manufacturing. So there's not just one variable here. It's really important to bring back jobs for individuals to have skills, to have innovation, because it's through building and through doing that innovation happens. And it will allow us to be more self-reliant if a war breaks out. See, we're already hearing in the news that we can't produce enough weapons because of the things that are happening in Europe, in the Middle East, and potentially even in Asia. So we already have a shortage problem for weapons. On top of, you know what, perhaps our weapons are a little bit too sophisticated and too costly. So there's, a dual problem there. But it's really important to bring back American jobs. Really important. Because if you have a generation that goes by that's coming out of college and they're not learning skills about how to make stuff, how to build stuff, how to design stuff, then you have a society that's just paper pushing, a Lotus 1-2-3, what I call the Lotus 1-2-3 engineer, or the Excel spreadsheet engineer. There was even a comment by Elon Musk. I forgot the context completely, but he stated something very similar, that one of the companies out there have too many, maybe it was Boeing, I'm not sure, but one of the companies out there have too many engineers that are on spreadsheets. It's very true. I've seen this in the automotive world. You have different types of engineers. You have the engineers that actually design, right, and actually make stuff, and then you have these other kind of like Lotus 1-2-3. We call them Lotus 1-2-3 when Lotus 1-2-3 was a common software. But these Excel spreadsheet engineers trying to manage the project. You know what? Designing and doing is what makes innovation happen. We got to bring back the American jobs. This idea of outsourcing is an old concept. It's an old concept going back to the Jack Welch MBA days.
And we're ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet.
Damn right.
The oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. When the vaccine went out, he did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration.
Because we're going to have another 9/11 because we have terrorists coming over the border. Oh, on top of that, you need more people in the country to produce more GDP because we have a low birth rate. I've been hearing people on Bloomberg, talk about the robustness of the economy because of the immigrants. Yet cities are going bankrupt, giving them freebies, aka New York City.
Later in this block, President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person.
This is where I agree partially with Biden. The uber wealthy, the billionaires, should be taxed at a higher rate. This idea of them hiding the money and bringing down their effective tax rate to really low, that needs to end. All right, they need to be taxed. A 250 billionaire or 100 billionaire, right, is still going to be a billionaire with a 25% tax. They're still going to have a very nice life. They don't have to worry about it. And oh, by the way, money makes money. All right, so they'll be able to recover it quickly. And if they're savvy, if you've been watching, these billionaires are growing at a faster rate because of the equity market. So a 25% tax can be easily made up. Let's say it's just 100 million millionaire, right? All right, a 25% tax on $100 million, all right, still gives them 75 million. Well, that 75 million is going to be able to make more billions. I'm sorry, 175 billion, not million. All right, so if you're a 100 billionaire and it's a 25% tax, you'll have 75 billion left. All right, with 75 billion, you're going to be able to grow that and fill that hole. Right now, of course, that gain that you have is going to be taxed another 25%. But the thing is that they can recover quickly, and it's not going to change their lifestyle. A billionaire that's 75 billion is not much different than 100 billion or 200 billion or a trillion. But when you're talking about someone that in middle America that is struggling, all right, the difference of $10,000 or not is big, right? And their ability to recover, with lost assets is a lot harder. So taxing the uber wealthy at a higher rate, I am absolutely for, and I actually think that perhaps it should be even higher. But definitely go after the uber wealthy. I totally agree with that. Not only that, I think that there should be provisions in place where you cut off the managerial class and prevent them from making their money from these stock options, right? And there needs to be some sort of regulation on that if you're a CEO or if you're on the board or whatever, that these stock option plans are mitigated, if not abolished.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with.
This is where This
Yeah.
is where he starts
If,
bumbling, and the reaction from Trump. All right, I just want to, hopefully I can rewind that. All right, just look at Trump as he's bumbling. Look at the reaction with Trump, and this reaction from Trump is exactly what the American people are thinking at the time that they're seeing this.
want to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Was right, he did beat Medicare, he beat it to death, but he's destroying Medicare. Because all of these people are coming in, they're putting them on Medicare, they're putting them on Social Security, they're gonna destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security, he will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence, and it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We no longer respect it. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election
Before
since the
we go
Supreme
there,
Court
before we go there, all right, let me just do a commercial because this is PNN covering CNN. You're noticing a lot of decline from President Biden, all right? To prevent that decline, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Clarity Factor. This will remove brain fog. It'll allow you to concentrate either, on your work or on your schooling, or just, increase that memory. It'll allow you to function more effectively. All right, and get rid of that brain fog. But in addition, if you follow what I've been saying holistically about proper diet, proper supplementation, proper exercise, stretching, challenging your mind, reading, writing, staying away from toxic things like social media, all right, and learning and talking to people and moving around, right, stretching, right, you do this a holistic approach, a little bit of meditation or spirituality. A holistic approach is going to improve your health and your cognition, your mental cognition. All right. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and don't be a President Biden. All right. Get the Clarity Factor. This will help to get those neurons firing, and through those neurons firing with proper nutrition and all these other things that I'm talking about, what's going to happen is you're going to get that neuroplasticity. You're going to have more of those neurons connecting with each other. And when you have more of the neurons connecting with each other, then you're going to be able to have better memory. You're going to be able to think better. You're going to be able to be quicker in your thinking and in your talking. And by doing the proper exercising, you're improving your muscle tone, you're improving your balance, and you're improving your ability for proper gait, proper walking. Take my advice. If you take the holistic approach, you're going to be able to slow down the aging process. So go to my store and get the Clarity Factor. Get those dendrites firing. Get those neurons firing. Get those neurons connecting. Those dendritic connections. At the ends of your neurons, there are these dendrite, and these dendritic connections come, and there's the synaptic cleft between these neurons, and there's this communication that takes place with these neurotransmitters that are being fired. So if you have the proper holistic approach and you get the proper supplementation, you're going to be able to improve that over time. So go to the store, and get the clarity factor, and don't be a Biden. Trust me on this. Trust me on this. In addition, I have very high quality soaps, structural nano silver soaps. All right. I'm pretty sure that President Biden smells. All right. Maybe he smells sulfur like Hillary Clinton. The best thing to do is go to my store and get the structural nano silver soaps. Very high quality soaps. I have them in different varieties, right? This one is in oatmeal spice. I have it also in peppermint, in charcoal tea tree, lemongrass, and what's this one? Lavender. Okay, so go to my store and get a couple bars of this for your household. It's very high quality soap. It helps to support my work, and it prevents you from smelling like Biden. It's really important to boost up your immune system, all right? On top of all the holistic things that I've been saying. And you can boost up your immune system by taking structured solution, all right? This is a 30 ppm, or the Health Max 14, which is a 14 ppm, that's parts per million, or the Max 35, which is 35 parts per million. You take a teaspoon a day, you swish it in your mouth for about 20 seconds, gargle for 20 seconds, and swallow. All right? Really simple. What that does is it neutralizes pathogens, and it helps to maintain that mucosal barrier that I was talking about earlier. And it will help to boost up your immune system, right? Because it's reducing that chronicness of people getting sick. You know, a lot of times people that don't do proper supplementation or don't have a proper diet, they get sick all the time. All right. So take a teaspoon a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle, swallow. It'll help to boost up your immune system and neutralize pathogens. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day. All right. Do that. Do this on a regular basis. And what's going to happen is you're going to be improving your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Max 35 or the Max 14 or the structural solution that has a 30 parts per million. Now, what's going to happen is we transition to Dana Bash. Like I said, all right, Dana is in all white, right? Women's suffrage, and then goes after Trump with the abortion issue. That was orchestrated. They did that. They planned that, especially 13 minutes in, because some people may have missed the beginning. You know, they're just, oh, the debate's on, and they come in. They kind of plan when they ask certain questions.
Criminal. Thank you, President Trump. Dan?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that an end result. It was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided.
My take on this, from the perspective of an older adult with a little bit of wisdom, I guess, all right? There needs to be protection of the unborn with their constitutional rights, just as much as the constitutional rights of a female had to be protected. And through suffrage, right, they ended up getting voter rights and other rights for women, right, which are important. But the same vein, there needs to be the civil rights of the unborn. Now, the question comes in is at what stage would you say that those civil rights need to be protected, the rights of the unborn? All right. Now, part of this is a religious question. Part of this is actually just a civil question, a secular question. All right. My take on this is that it's certain situations, life of the mother, or obviously, rape or deformity issues, that there should be a means for the mother to be able to abort the fetus. All right. Now, there's a complication here. There are people that want to control the whole aspect of this on both sides of the spectrum. You have the ultra conservative, right, that wants to say no abortion, even under these extraneous circumstances like rape or even the health of the mother for whatever reason. There's lots of complications that can happen with pregnancy. Lots. All right. So, the ultra conservative will just say, you know what? No abortion. The ultra left, the ultra liberal is going to say abortion all the way through, maybe even at labor or maybe even post labor. Some people have been talking about that. There's videos on the internet, on YouTube, where you had people trying to pass bills for this kind of thing, all right, at the state legislature, actually. So both of these ultra extreme perspectives, I think, are wrong, right? There is a middle ground, all right? Think about it, when someone gets raped, all right, they know that they've been raped, all right? They usually go to the hospital and there's a rape kit. All right. All right. And, you know, having the means to abort that, you know, at the early stage is no big deal. All right. The problem comes in if you, let's say, get a pregnancy that was wanted or unwanted, and you're now in the 10th week, all right, and then now you're starting to find out that there are deformities. The parents of that unborn should have the means to determine if they want to abort or not, because they're the ones that have to deal with the medical costs and deal with, you know, the special issues that may arise from these unborn children that may have some sort of deformity or may have some sort of um, mental issue, or their trisomy or whatever, right? Okay. The, the parents should make that decision, all right, not the state. But in a normal pregnancy that, let's say, was wanted or unwanted, and it kept on going into the third trimester, there's got to be a point within the developmental timeline of the fetus where you say it's normal, you had your chance to abort, you should have made that decision, you decided to kick the can down the road, too late, and the state intervenes and says you can't. I support that concept where you can't just keep on waiting until you go into the third trimester. You know, the first trimester, I think women should have the decision. When you have it in the second trimester, then you're talking about, you know what, it's about deformities that may arise that you want to deal with, or, you know, some other issues that of of the child that you may not want to be dealing with. It should be up to the parents to decide. The problem comes in is if you have one parent saying they want to keep it and the other one says they don't. All right, I think that there's a problem there, and there needs to be more rights for the male too, the father, and, you know, not just the mother. So it depends on the situation. No question asked for the first trimester. In most cases, if they're going to be raped, right? If there was rape, they would get rid of it in the first trimester, anyways. All right. You know, but if there's things that are starting to arise where it's, you know, that there are complications and they may not want to take it to term, in the second trimester, there should be means to be able to do that. But if the child is normal, based on testing, then that ability to abort should be heavily curtailed. All right. And obviously, you know, if the baby is, you know, healthy, the fetus is healthy, um, you know, in the, let's say, the third trimester, they shouldn't be able to abort unless it's like major problem for the health of the mother. Like, for example, a 26 week, you're let's say you're 30 weeks in, right? Or 27 weeks in, with the pregnancy, and then there's some complication that happens with the mother, maybe some issue with some cardiac issue or some sort of blood clotting issue. There's tons of things that could go wrong, right? And you need to save the mother, and they need to they need to abort the child. Those are rare. Those, I mean, it's not very common, right? But at least to have the means, because it's the life of the mother, right? But there's going to be a certain point where you can get the baby out and do prenatal care, like preemie care, and the successful rate of the preemie is very high. at a certain point, okay? Not too early, but not, but there is a point where you can induce labor or do cesarean and save the mother and the child. Not in all cases, but in some cases. So if you can save the child and the mother in those cases, then you can't abort. All right. So there's this spectrum of possibilities and what could or could not happen. That really is the answer to this issue. First trimester, if you don't want to have the child, then the parent should be able to abort. Second trimester, if there's deformities and you want to abort, you should have the means to abort. If there's no abnormality, then you shouldn't be able to abort. All right. If it was rape and incest and all that, it should have been aborted in the first trimester. All right. If it's in the third trimester, and there's some sort of deformity that happens, again, if the parents want to abort, they should be able to abort. If the child is normal and could go to term, then they can't abort. If the child is something's happening to the mother and it's the safety of the mother and they can't save the baby too at the same time, then the mother's life should take precedence. Now, some mothers will try to have the baby live and they don't live, but those are also rare cases, but there's a complex mosaic of potentialities here. All right. And it's not as simple as, can you have an abortion or not? All right. Again, the ultra right is wrong, saying all abortions should be illegal. And the ultra left is wrong, saying that late term abortions are legal. It needs to be thought in this kind of like trimester concept. All right. But, if you don't get rid of the baby and there's nothing wrong early on, you missed your opportunity. Okay. It should, but again, if there is some deformity that starts to emerge or some sort of reason to think that that child isn't going to be normal for whatever reason, and the parents don't want to deal with it for whatever reason, because of cost or psychological effects or whatever, they should have that choice to abort the fetus. Right. So, but if there's nothing wrong and you missed your opportunity in the first trimester, you got to take it to term, because the rights of the child kick in. The rights of the unborn kick in.
To Porter Row. And that's this idea that they're all against it. It's just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn the civil rights back to the states, that each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in to talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters. It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. And in many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have done it. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions.
Dana Bash, dressed all in white, and to have that dye on, to make these clothing, and her hair dye pollutes the planet. All right, you'll understand why I say this later in the show. It's more complicated, Dana. Really, it's much more complicated than that. All right, especially during this development phase where everything seems to be normal, right? And then all of a sudden something's going wrong, especially in the third trimester. All right, could happen. What happens if there is a injury? Let's say the mother's in a car accident and there's an injury and there's concern that there is blood loss, but it's only 26 weeks in. Well, what are you going to do? And it looks like the baby may not make it. All right. In those cases, the parent should have the right to abort. It's an extreme case. It shouldn't be a state issue, really. Right? But if the baby is fine, but the mother wants to abort, no. There needs to be a constitutional protection of the unborn under certain circumstances at a certain time in the developmental timeline. Now, maybe that sounds a little bit more like Roe versus Wade, but it shouldn't be. It's a complicated issue because the question is, should the unborn's rights be protected at the federal level or at the state level? Now, I personally think it should be protected at the federal level. Problem is that the Democratic Party never wants to solve this problem because they always want to drum this beat constantly to get the young crowd in, saying that the Republicans are going to try to take away your abortion. They never want to solve it. They just want to keep on using this as a trope for Democratic voters to get into the voting booth and vote for Democrat. They never really want to solve the problem.
To be wrong. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only woman's life is in danger. She's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals,
agree with Trump on
not
this.
the Republicans.
Late-term abortion with a normal fetus, right? Late-term abortion is wrong. If there is complications where the parents, need to make a decision to save the life of the mother, or they don't want to deal with some of the some catastrophic thing happens and they don't want to deal with the, some of the side effects of taking it to term. They should have that. They should, because they're the ones that have to go through the pain and suffering, the parents, right? So in those cases, yes, they should be able to elect for an abortion, right? Now, this is not a simple thing because this is, now the child, the unborn is more developed and, it's a much more involved procedure, right? Which you don't want to know how that's done. I mean, it's pretty graphic. But the thing is that there needs to be provisions, but these are rare cases. These are rare cases. The problem is that this idea from the ultra right or the ultra left that you can't have any, or you can have it as much as you want, anytime you want, from the ultra left. All right. The protection of the unborn has to be considered. Now, because it's the protection of the unborn, it perhaps should be at the federal level and not the state level. That's a more legal nuance. But the thing is that it's just wrong. It is absolutely just wrong to do a late term abortion where there is the desire to get rid of the child, but there's no medical issue with the mother or the child at the time of the abortion. That's just wrong. It's just wrong.
51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court, takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board, at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn over to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, but made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border legally. It's better when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative.
Strong borders, strong currency, strong borders, manufacturing prowess is what makes a country strong. Unfortunately, we have too many people trying to ship jobs overseas. We have a government that is printing money like there's no tomorrow. That's going to be weakening our economic future, right? And our border is porous. In terms of the border, we had a good policy under Trump, and that is build a wall. And if they come across that wall, prosecute. You come here illegally, it's illegal, you get shit back. Period. There's no question. Boom. You want to do asylum? You ask for asylum outside of the country before you get here. That's the way it should be. But what's happening is that they want to bring the national security state kind of wants to control demolition. They want to bring in terrorists for an event to happen so they can get more control of your civil liberties. That's one issue. Another issue is that they want cheaper labor to come in, right? Which is going to hurt Blacks and Latino jobs. And what's going to happen is that you give them amnesty and citizenship and they'll vote for a Democrat. So you're turning a red state into a blue state. So because of all these nefarious things that are going on with this whole porous border, we need to shut it down. We need to prosecute these people that are coming here illegally. And it is time to become a stronger nation by controlling its money supply, by controlling its border, and by controlling its manufacturing prowess. They're all connected. It's not a disparate issue.
But to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who was great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming out in
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything across the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person coming in his administration, killed three American soldiers, That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorists ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second, he said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, or we have to get them out fast, because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in. And
President
it's a
Biden,
very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have
Before we go to President Biden's response, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And I partnered up with Rainbow Herbals and we created these deodorant bars. They're made from essential oils from the Himalayas. I have it in citrus and also in peppermint lavender tea tree. It's a dual purpose deodorant. You use it every day as a deodorant. It's for males and females, but it also will help to slowly detoxify your body because of the ingredients that are in it. There is no aluminum, there's no baking soda in it. It's all natural, very high quality essential oils, right? So get a couple bars from the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get either the citrus deodorant or the peppermint lavender tea tree. That way, you're helping your body and you get a very high quality deodorant because you know what? The world is going up in flames, right? And you got to smell good before the apocalypse. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the deodorants that I offer. In addition, it's very important to use the silver gel. The silver gel is a structural nano silver. You put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your ears and eyes. It helps to neutralize pathogens, right? It stays active for about 5 hours. You can put it on your skin to help heal it, heal the skin. If you have a minor burn or an abrasion, acne, or a wound, they'll help to heal the wound. It'll help to heal bug bites and stuff like that. But in addition, you can use it as a skincare product, all right? You can put it on your skin, all right? And let's say put it on at night and then exfoliate in the morning. Do that on a regular basis. And what you'll notice is that your skin is clear and it's tighter, especially if you do this on your face, all right? In addition, for ones that shave, let's say a guy's shaving their face, after you shave your face, use the gel as an aftershave. All right. And what will happen is it's actually going to help with that irritation from shaving. And you'll notice it'll kind of cool down the skin. All right. So, and it'll help to kind of heal it, heal kind of that abrasive feeling from shaving. For women that are shaving their legs, right, do the same thing. Put it after you shave your legs, use the gel on your legs, and it's an it can act as an aftershave kind of treatment to help to heal the skin. All right, this is a very high quality product that has dual purpose, neutralizes pathogens and helps to heal the skin, and it helps to rejuvenate the skin. So it's a high quality product. Go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and use it as an aftershave or to neutralize pathogens or as a skincare, right? In addition, you can lightly coat your nostrils. Do this like right before you go to bed. And what you're doing is you're improving that mucosal lining and that of the inner of the nostril, right? And that endothelial lining, right? You're improving that, and you're being able to block pathogens from entering, right? If you have a barrier disruption within your upper airway, that increases the chances of getting sick. But if you lightly coat your fingers and put them in your nostrils and lightly coat with the gel, like right before you go to bed, you're going to notice that you're not as sick as often. You're neutralizing pathogens. You're improving that lining in your nostrils. But in addition, you'll notice that it's kind of like helping you breathe, helping open up the nostril a little bit, and it'll help you to breathe. So it might actually improve people with potentially apnea, sleep apnea or something like that. But the idea here is that doing these things on a regular basis can improve your health, right? By improving the lining in your nostrils, neutralizing pathogens, improving your skincare. There's a lot of really important things that you can do. Aftershave with this gel. Go to the store, get a couple tubes of this, improve your skin, and neutralize pathogens. In addition, all right, I have collagen. All right. Now this collagen isn't just collagen. I mean, it has a ton of amino acids in it. Okay. So with this, and it has calcium, right? And it has a ton of amino acids. So this is a great product to take every day. Why do you want to take collagen? For multiple reasons. One, for people that want to prevent osteoporosis, for people that want to improve their joint health, for people that work out and they need to recover, or they're building muscle and they're building they're improving their health through a little bit more intense exercising. Get this and use it every day. There's a scooper in here. You take a scooper a day. You mix it with your food, or you can mix it with a smoothie, or what I do is I mix it with my food, and take it every day. Right? This is going to help with joint health, with bone health, with skin. So from the skin perspective, taking this every day, you're going to notice that your skin is improving. All right. Your hair and your nails will improve. Okay, you're getting you're getting a great profile of amino acids. All right, you can just, instead of reading them all, those are all the amino acids that you're getting in the container, right? So you're getting a great profile for the amino acids. But in addition, you take this with vitamin C and you drink 64 ounces of filtered water, right, throughout the day, right? So you mix this with, let's say, your food, take it, once a day. You're drinking 64 ounces of filtered water throughout the day. You take the vitamin C that I have on my store, right? The vitamin C I have on my store, right? And the gel that you put on your skin at night and you exfoliate in the morning, and just those three things. The gel, the collagen, and the vitamin C will help to improve your skin. Now that's the beginner's box for skin health that I have in the anti-aging box section of the store. In addition, you can improve it with doing two other things, and that is taking resveratrol, which gets rid of senesced cells, and you want to get rid of the senesced cells and improve the basal layer. So this will help to improve your skin and other things. In addition, taking the C60, which is a very strong antioxidant. So when you take the resveratrol with the C60, which is synergistic, and you take the collagen, that didn't work. The collagen, the silver gel, the vitamin C, right? When you take all these together, what will happen, and that's the advanced box, it'll help to rejuvenate the skin even more. But there's a lot of other tangential benefits. By taking the skincare box, beginners or advanced, you get other benefits. Like the C60 is going to improve actually brain health, but it'll also help with other cells bringing down that stress. The resveratrol will do the same. Vitamin C will help to improve your immune system. So there's added benefit, not just as a skincare. So go to the store, take a look at the beginner's box for skincare or the advanced box for skincare under the anti-aging section. But you can also buy these products individually. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen, get the vitamin C, which helps to improve your immune system too, and get the silver gel. All right. very important. You do this on a regular basis, and it's actually, you're going to actually improve your skin, and you're going to look younger. So you don't look like Biden.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery.
Don't forget that he had not just one son, he had 2 sons. All right. Hunter Biden also served in the military for not very long and should have been dishonorably discharged for his conduct as a soldier. So stop, playing that that you have this great aura of service to country, Biden. It's unbelievable. And I don't know the story, too much of the story of his son that died from brain cancer, what the actual cause was. I don't know. Maybe it's related to his service. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Well, one cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up book, Suckers and Losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I had. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
To the topic of foreign policy, I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. They talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost. but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
Of course, there's a
Hey,
commercial.
folks, our fundraising deadline is coming up, and I need your support to reach our goal.
Nope.
You know, I hate asking, but the strength.
President Biden?
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. But he didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that era. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
I'm gonna
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute. I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine?
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
You
President
know,
Biden, you have a minute.
the fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? You think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think to Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he
If you
does what he said,
actually listen to the Tucker interview with Putin, which I did extensive, I think it was 2 videos on it. Putin says what he wants to do with Ukraine, and it's not taking over all of Ukraine. And he said he didn't. There's no reason to go into Poland or Hungary. The problem is that historically, certain parts of Ukraine were actually Russian.
walks away. And by the way, all that money we give Ukraine from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East.
First of all, our manufacturing base has been gutted, so we can't make them as quickly as we should be able to. 2, oh, continue the war so we have money flowing into the military industrial complex to have a bogus GDP number. Okay, bye.
In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
As a president of the United States, all right, it is totally unacceptable to have American citizens as hostages by Hamas. And the president should have said, give me my fucking people back in 24 hours or 48 hours, or I'm coming in and I'm going to fucking kill you. That's what we should have had with the president of the United States say. We need a strong president that tells these terrorists, you give back our people or we're going to kill you. And that's the problem with Biden.
Biden, you've put forward a
He's a
proposal
weak
to
president.
resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages.
He cares so much about the American people and the soldiers, right? But he can't get the job done to get them home. And the job isn't, oh, we're going to negotiate, for some sort of unsustainable 2-state solution. That ain't the way to do it. The way to do it is you give us our people back. You return the hostages, or we're going to go in there and we're going to hunt you down and we're going to kill you all. That's what should have happened. Instead, we got a stupid ass president that can't get the job done. It is unacceptable to have an American citizen left behind. And of course, he did this in Afghanistan too. He's such a dipshit.
its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one,
As President of the United States, Dr. Paul Cottrell says, give me my people back, Hamas. Our citizens are being returned, or bombs are going to drop, and there are going to be a lot of collateral damage. You make it so obvious that the only answer is to give back the people, or else. That's strong leadership. Not this pussyfooting around.
national security straight through the G7 to the Israelis, and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the
Hundreds of days. How many days? Hundreds of days? 200 days? 100? I don't know how many days they've been in hostage. All right, but it's a lot. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. It was unacceptable for 48 hours. And you're going to have some sort of Westphalian negotiation for a 2-state solution, or, in a ceasefire that's long lasting, and maybe we'll have our people back. Wrong.
hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is no, the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept.
Let's not go in, President Biden. Let's not go into Gaza because it might kill the children. But meanwhile, we got to make sure that the ultra liberals can abort their baby at any given moment of the day, at any time during the developmental timeline. But we can't have any collateral damage and kill, innocent Hamas children. But we can cut up the baby in the womb. Yeah. This president is a piece of shit.
What's happened in Israel, we're finding the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel.
He's also the guy that paid to reduce sanctions. He gave the means for Iran to be able to pay Hamas and Hezbollah to fund it. By easing the sanctions, by not being strong on Iran like Trump was. He was part of the administration with Obama, where this whole, stupid negotiation with Iran was happening. A nuclear Iran is a dangerous Iran. A destroyed theocracy in Iran is on order. That's what we need to do. We need to be strong. We need to get stuff done and stop doing all this paper pushing negotiations that go nowhere. American hostages are still being held by Hamas. Maybe they're dead. We don't know. But they should not have been held for that long. It should have been, you took an American citizens, you give them back right now. Right now. No. See, we don't have a strong leader. So now, nuclearization is going to take place. Nuclear proliferation is going to take place in Iran. And the whole calculus is going to be totally different. This president, Biden, is a weak president that is leading us to failure. Unbelievable. And this is emblematic of the liberal agenda. Weaken America. Make sure you can have your abortion. Make sure you have gender fluidity. Make sure you use the right pronoun. The right way to address Hamas is, give me my people back, or I'm going to kill you.
No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so those are two different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for what using certain weapons among population centers.
No, it should be very simple. Give us our hostages back, or there's going to be collateral damage, and we're going to destroy the Gaza Strip. That's the way it should be. You hit it with this surgical crap with SEAL Team 6, and we're going to go in and we're going to target them all. It doesn't win wars. Navy SEALs cannot win a war. They can start a war, they can perpetuate a war, but they can't win a war.
Let's get back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he tell them, so you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute?
That was so New York. You can tell that Trump's soul is from New York. He's a bad Palestinian.
he wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe. What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead.
NATO's encroachment created the Putin situation. The United States monopolar world post the fall of the Berlin Wall has created this problem because the national security state wants more power, more money, and they're hell-bent on getting the resources of Russia. On top of creating these, other unconventional warfare means like biologics.
Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. What happens then? He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021? And worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching.
I think there is adequate evidence to suggest that there was an entrapment that was going on by the FBI, and that there was a corralling of individuals to storm. And so that event is more complex than just did Trump get on stage and try to rile up the crowd, right? It's much more complex than that. And the deep state was involved. There was an entrapment that was taking place. There was a demonization. But the bigger issue that no one talks about on what happened on that day at the Capitol, the bigger issue is that you have a government that's not listening to the people. You have a government that's not of the people, by the people, for the people. And unfortunately, this is how it manifested. And we may be seeing a slow move towards a civil war or a revolutionary situation that is reminiscent of the vein of some of the things that were happening periodically in France, where there's this churning of the government and overthrow and revolution. Hopefully that does not happen. But if you have a government that is not listening to the people and is not governing for the people, it's governing for special interests, and is overreaching with its national security state, and there is this loss of civil liberty, then it is the right and obligation of the citizenry to stop that government tyranny. That's the big issue that no one's talking about. That's the issue.
Being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they've talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done. You know, they've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. He went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says that he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that there could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, so you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him those first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boy? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing to, will you denounce these guys? We denounce the people we're talking about now? We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the select committee on January.
Trump missed the opportunity when Biden said what he said, and then this question that's dovetailing what Biden said. Trump missed the opportunity. He should have said, you know what? The government with an out-of-control DA went after a political opponent. And this is what's happening to the Black community, the Black communities in America, where you have a government that is going after certain types of people, right? And that there needs to be more of an examination of what's going on with the government and these DAs going after certain types of groups of people or certain types of targeted attacks, right? Like I said before, you know, with Alex Jones, with the censorship, you know, that if they could censor Alex Jones, they're going to be able to censor everybody. The same thing here. If they're going to be able to convict a former president on something that was very minor, like, you know, paying a porn star as a legal fee, all right, which most likely will be overturned. If they can do that to a president, a former president, they're going to be able to do that to a citizen that they don't think they like because of their political views or because of their reach, social media reach, or whatever. Look at what happened with Tucker Carlson, where he said that the FBI and the CIA were investigating him because of his contacts. He was trying to, you know, do a show, an interview with Putin. Why does the government need to get involved? He's a journalist. Now, there's some issues with, you know, Tucker and the CIA, maybe, who knows? But the thing is that the government is out of control. And so Trump missed that opportunity, saying the government came after me, and I understand what is happening to the Black communities when the government goes after them. Now, there is an issue, especially in New York, where, you know, there is crime is running rampant, and they're not willing to prosecute certain types of people, and in this case, Blacks, all right? But in other communities, that's not the case, and that there is profiling that's taking place in certain communities. So Trump should have used that as an opportunity, and I'm surprised they didn't prep him for that. Use it as an opportunity to channel to the Black and the minority groups, saying he was targeted by the government, you're targeted by the government, we're on the same side, and we're going to stop this government intrusion. He missed that. I think if he did that, it would hit a tone that would echo all the way into November for the election.
Going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon. at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with his son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir.
There was election interference by the Democratic Party on multiple occasions through 2020 and also the 2016 election. And we don't have real journalists in the mainstream media willing to call that off. You have it in the independent media, but the thing is that this, it doesn't get enough traction. And we need to hold the Democratic Party, the corrupt part of the Democrat, not all of the Democrats are corrupt, but the Democratic Party, the corruption needs to end and they need to be held accountable. And this goes into the deep state and the national security state. So the national security state and the deep state, part of that is neocons. It's not just Democrats. So you have a corrupt Democratic Party, a corrupt deep state, and a corrupt national security state that all need to be held accountable. And this is part of the reason why they're afraid of Trump. I remember when Trump was elected, right? Remember at that time, there was this dossier that eventually ended up being a fake, fake story, right? But that was election interference by the Democratic Party through the Hillary campaign. They tried to get that to stick and took that all the way through his whole presidency to try to hamper him. People that were involved in that need to be criminally charged and found guilty. Obviously, through a jury, but there's a corruptness that's happening in the Democratic Party, but it's also the deep state. It's also part of this national security state that is on the other side of the aisle too, the Republican side. These people, they want to maintain control. And they're afraid, quote, afraid of retribution. Trump should go in and literally, if I was the president of the United States, I would basically say to the CIA and the FBI, thank you for your service, talking to the heads, the top 3 heads. You're fired. You're done. Your security clearance is no longer valid. Oh, by the way, all the ones that have been retired, their security clearance is no longer valid. And oh, by the way, who's being brought on board, either interim or who will be running the show that's confirmed by the Senate. I think it's confirmed by the Senate, maybe it's confirmed by the House. But the point here is that whoever ends up being the leader of the FBI, the head of the FBI and the CIA, give me a budget in 1 month to cut your costs by 30%. So what you're doing is you're forcing kind of this corporate America kind of philosophy where you're cutting costs, you're cutting corruption, you're cutting the kingdoms that were being built by these deep staters. And you'll actually, by doing this, you'll actually have a more efficient and less intrusive government. Trump obviously isn't going to do that because unfortunately, people will try to get him into office. Hopefully he gets into office, but he just doesn't go the next step. He knows what he needs to do. He just doesn't do it. For someone convinces him not to, he gets an advisor in, it's, quasi deep stater, and he just doesn't do it. He should have went after Hillary. He didn't when he was president. I don't think he's going to be, I don't think he's going to go into retribution mode. But this is what needs to happen. He needs to do mass firings and mass restructuring of the FBI and the CIA. And for future presidents and for the future of the country and for the civil liberties of the citizens, this has to happen. The existential threat of our constitutional freedoms isn't Putin, it's the CIA.
You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You're the morals of an alley cat.
Sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA.
This is PNN covering CNN. Jake Tapper from Dartmouth. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotic and prebiotic that I have. So this is a powder, and you mix it with your food. You notice that I was eating some hummus, actually, and I mixed actually the powder into the hummus. So I take this every day. I usually take it in the afternoon, right? And this will help with your gut biome. Why is that important? It'll help you absorb nutrients. It'll help you to have a healthier gut. Also, it'll help with the communication between your gut and your liver because there's this metabolism, there's synergistic metabolism that's going on between your gut and your liver. And also, there is this communication between your gut and your brain. And with proper healthy gut, by taking a probiotic and proper supplementation and proper diet, you're going to improve your metabolism, you're going to improve your mental cognition, you're going to improve your emotional profile, and you're going to have more energy, you're going to have a better gut, you're going to reduce the chances of these irritable bowel syndrome type things or colon cancers, stuff like that. You want a good gut. All right. Now there's different things to do. Sometimes you have to do annual cleanses, of your liver, or of your kidney, or of your gut, which I do recommend. But there's also the maintenance, the daily maintenance using a probiotic. So please go to my store and get the powdered probiotic that I have. I also have a tablet form probiotic, but I take the powdered one usually on a regular basis. C60, very strong antioxidant. Why do you take this? You need to soak up those free radicals because those free radicals cause damage to the cells. When there's damage to the cells, they don't function as properly. They may, turn pathogen, they may turn diseased. So what you want to do is you want to take C60 and soak up those free radicals to prevent the cells from going into a disease state or a necrosis state. It will help to slow down the aging of that cell and of that tissue. And it'll help to boost up the mitochondria because the C60 will help to boost the health of that mitochondria. Mitochondria makes the ATP, so you'll have more energy. When you have more energy, the cell is going to be healthier, your tissue will be healthier, you're going to have more energy, you're going to be moving around more, you're going to have better muscle mass. Your brain is going to be more active. Why? Because you have a lot of mitochondria and those neurons to shoot those neurotransmitters. So having healthy cells by soaking up those free radicals will reduce disease tissue, will reduce disease cells, will reduce the effects of free radicals on your body. Take this every day, take a teaspoon of it a day. I have it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce configuration. You can get it in extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or MCT coconut oil. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description. And get the C60. Take it every day. This is a very strong antioxidant, and you're going to get huge improvements in your skin, in your tissues. You're going to start to have more energy, and you're going to see the compound effects of the whole anti-aging process. By doing this, you're going to be boosting up your immune system. So there's lots of benefits. I take this every day. It's very important. It's one of the core pieces of the anti-aging protocol and the boosting of the immune system. So please take the C60 every day. I have it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce configuration.
Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming out. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? You ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people the ones got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense for American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Obama.
Debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought They were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, and he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw it with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
If you make at least 150 grand a year and you're still embarrassed to take your shirt off at the pool, I'll get you shredded like a god for the summer, or you won't pay a dime.
This is very specifically for men over 30 who make at the bare minimum 150K a year. If that's you, over the next 45 seconds, I'm going to show you how to get completely ripped for the summer and why men like you need a radically different.
Back to the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms, and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there are more small Black businesses that have been started from any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. In addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs, cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals.
A lot of people don't pay attention to what he just said. This is opening up the door for the reparations. Because they're Black, they should have some sort of tax credit for first home buyer. No, if you have a certain social economic situation to give the class that social economic class an opportunity to have home ownership, yeah, definitely. Not just because they're Black. See, it's opening up the door for additional benefits because of them being Black, and it's opening up the door for reparations. Totally against it. Totally. No reparations. Zero. None reparation. For people that are in a certain socioeconomic category, no matter what their race is, as long as they're an American citizen, definitely give them some opportunity for home ownership. I'm just so sick and tired of the Democratic Party. I mean, just about, very, very little of their belief systems of economics, of democracy, and of the, military preparation, just about everything about the Democratic Party I dislike. Once in a while, there is a nugget that I would agree with. But here's a classic example where it's wrong. It's opening up the door for reparations. Wrong.
If you take our student loans that were polluted, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years through student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking Black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands and millions of jobs for individuals who were in involved communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they had health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that there are $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing it, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the Black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically Black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are Blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the Black population because he's done a horrible job for Black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But when do you see these millions of people pouring into our country and they're going to take the jobs? And it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
We would try and take her on walks and she would refuse to go. It was a chore to get her to go outside and even use the bathroom. We tried the.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges, I came up with $50 billion for HBC.
Passing a bill for climate change doesn't necessarily equate to actually changing the numbers in terms of clean water and air. They're already admitting that they're doing chemtrail to try to mitigate the temperature increase in the world. We can't have clean air if you keep on doing chemtrail. So Trump is kind of smart on this. You know, if you know what to look for, you know, he kind of gives a little nod. All right. When he says clean air and clean water, all right, it's actually stating that, you know what, stop the chemtrail. Now, unfortunately, he wasn't as direct as I wish he was on that issue. But just because you pass legislation doesn't mean you actually get anything done. And this is the problem of the Democratic Party. Oh, we passed legislation. I mean, just a bunch of retards. Just someone that votes for someone that votes for Biden is a retard. Someone that votes for Trump is a damn patriot.
Those historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money now for being able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He, out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord, I immediately joined it because if we reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius and then there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done. The Paris Accord.
Believe me, it's not climate change you need to worry about. You need to worry about nuclear proliferation. That's a major existential threat to humanity. That definitely. I mean, don't worry about climate change. Worry about nuclear weapons.
It was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if the United States can't get us under control? One of the largest polluters in the world. Number one, we're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We've made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people to learn how to deal with that, just like Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for once voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends
Do
meet.
you
For many
notice
old-
his throat, you know, it seems to be dry and all that? That's a side effect of amphetamines. I'm not saying he took amphetamines. I'm just saying that is a side effect of amphetamines.
For Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're gonna, I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing we'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut with Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on VC, as I said, we're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they in fact are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. They've got so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. And everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie.
Probably the most common question that I'm asked as a professor at Hillsdale is, what happened to my country? You know, they poll Americans, they find.
what happened to my country?
The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. By the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged actually he fired that general. That general got fired. because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increase and go up. And by the way, worst president in history.
Most of the economists thought we would have been in recession the last 12 months ago. So, I mean, so what? What's that mean? It doesn't mean a damn thing.
159 presidential scholars voted to him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
And just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border, that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He's the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He's the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country.
This is PNN covering CNN. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the D3 vitamin supplement that I have. What this will do is a help to absorb calcium, but it's also a cofactor for gene expression. That's important, so you have proper gene expression in the cell, and it will help to get rid of apoptosis. It'll help to get rid of cells that have been infected through apoptosis, right? So by taking D3, if there's a cell that's been infected, then the part of the immune system wants to get rid of that cell, have that cell go into apoptosis. Well, you need proper gene expression to do that. D3 helps. D3 helps with that apoptosis to get rid of infected cells. But in addition, D3 is very important for calcium absorption. So please go to the store, get the D3. It's part of a protocol that you should be doing every day. I take 2 soft gels a day, 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. Each one has 5,000 5,000 units, okay? So, and that equates to about 125 micrograms. But basically, you want for for maintenance with D3, you want to take 2 soft gels, one in the morning, one in the evening. That's how I do it. You can also use D3 to help with improving joint health and reducing that arthritis, like osteoarthritis, especially with a sports injury. To do that, you have to do higher doses of D3. You have to do light resistance training on the injured joint, and you have to drink milk, take calcium supplements and drink milk. Light resistance training, very light resistance training on the joint as you're building it up. All right. Now, what I did to kind of reduce the osteoarthritis from all those triathlons and during the marathon days, right? What I did was I was taking 20,000 to 25,000 units. All right. Now remember, each soft gel is 5,000. So that's 5 gels throughout the day. But you do that basically over about a 7 to 9 month period, right? And you are healing that osteoarthritis. But it works because you're bringing in calcium, right? But you're also doing light resistance training, so you're perturbating the joint and the bone to the point where it's stimulating growth and remodeling. Now, there can be toxicity when you take D3 at high doses. Now, 25,000 units is not really that high, really. There's people that are in sports that take over 100,000 units. But it's based on your BMI. It's based on the problem with the osteoarthritis. And, when you start to see that there's a little bit of a neurotoxicity from high doses of D3, then you back it off. Now, for me, what I did was I did the work. I did this protocol years ago when I was in my 30s. I did this protocol. I heard of the protocol to improve osteoarthritis from Dr. Group. So you just take the high doses of D3, you take it with K2, all right, and you take it with you take calcium supplements, and I drink milk, so I was taking milk also. Light resistance training on the joint to build it up. All right, don't overdo it. Don't lift heavy weights or anything. It's light resistance training. You got to do this almost every day. And by doing that, you're going to strengthen the joint. But you do that over like a 7 to 9 month period. If you normally start to get this toxicity, like this neurotoxicity, at around the 7 to 9 month range, then you stop, okay, and go back to baseline. For me, baseline is 10,000 units. So other people might be 20,000. It's based on your BMI. It's based on a lot of other things. So but that it's happening when you start to get kind of like a little bit of a brain fog from it, from the D3 toxicity. But that's at high doses. Okay, so you just pay attention. You do this. You pay attention. Once you start feeling, if you go into the 9th month and you did not have the neurotoxicity, by then you're probably going to already feel that the joint is healed and you can go back to baseline, and that's good. All right. But if you start to feel the neurotoxicity at the 7 to 9 month mark, just stop. All right, and go back to baseline. But the whole idea is just to slowly heal that joint, and it's important to do that slight resistance training because you're stimulating that joint, you're stimulating the ends of the bone, and by doing that, you're going to do this remodeling. There's a remodeling that's taking place. Plus, there's muscle that's being improved upon. You're getting better joint health. right? The ligaments and the tendons are getting stronger, right? When you're doing this, it will be beneficial if you take the K2, all right, vitamin, and also collagen when you're doing this, all right? You'll get added benefits. But this is how you slowly reverse osteoporosis, okay? Or osteoarthritis, I'm sorry, osteoarthritis. Now, in terms of osteoporosis, that's a little different game. That is where, you want to absorb more calcium and you want to do more heavier lifting. By doing heavier lifting, then you're remodeling the bone, and you're going to be depositing through that remodeling and thickening the bone. All right. It takes roughly you can reverse osteoporosis. In that case, there's about a 6-year change. All right, that takes place. There's a recycling about 6 years with the bone matrix. So with osteoporosis, it's a much longer haul, heavier resistance training to reverse it. All right. With osteoarthritis, it's light resistance training over about a 9-month period. For me, it was 7 months when I was starting to get the neurotoxicity, and then you just go back down to baseline and you're fine. After like 2-3 days, you're fine. So, but that's how I did it. All right. D3, take it every day. I take 2 gels. It's part of my just maintenance protocol. But if you're trying to treat osteoarthritis and you really want to remodel the joint, the bone and the ligaments and the tendons, strengthen them, it's going to take about 7 to 9 months of repeated drinking milk, taking D3, taking K2, taking collagen, doing that resistance training over a 7 to 9 month period. Now, over that first 2 months, you may actually get more pain. But then what happens is after that first 2 months, it'll radically go down the pain, and you're remodeling. All right. And you're gonna notice that you're getting stronger. All right. Don't overdo it. Once it's getting stronger, don't overdo it. Just still keep on doing that light resistance training. And over a 7 to 9 month period, the osteoarthritis is substantially reduced or completely gone.
In the world, for the United States of America, there's nothing beyond our capacity. We're the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents, I wasn't joking. Look it up, go online. 159 or 58, don't know the exact number.
Iran was willing to go toe-to-toe. North Korea is starting to be belligerent. China seems like it wants to take over Taiwan. Russia doesn't give a shit anymore. You have a porous border that every country south of the Rio Grande wants, all the people south of the Rio Grande wants to come over into this country. Do we really have the strongest military in the world? In terms of what? In terms of nuclear weapons? In terms of winning wars? In terms of how much money we spend? What's the metric, Joe? Lunch Bucket Joe? What's the metric? We haven't won a war in a long time. In a long time. We spend too much money. We've gutted our manufacturing base. To say that let's be real, America is failing. Its educational system is failing. The inner cities are failing. Our military's failing. It's out of shape. You looked at the average health and fitness of our military personnel, especially in the Navy, it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Yeah, rah-rah. Rah-rah was okay in the 80s. We need to call it for the way it is. We have a weakening country, And if we don't wake up and are honest to it, it's going to get worse. This is very reminiscent of the early fracturing days of the Roman Empire. Thinking you're so powerful, but really, when you do a deep down assessment, you're not. Is the children really that smart? Is the children doing well in school? The assessment tests are going down, not up. You got major problems in the inner cities. America is weak on almost every metric. And until we're honest, we're not going to be able to reverse it.
Presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who was the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. You can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with.
How many of those were liberals and vote Democrat?
Childcare. He did virtually nothing in childcare. We should significantly increase the childcare tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men, of single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make childcare more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have Poland, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I grow up and I see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise the taxes on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. This tariff is 10% tariff. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that we're importing. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. Middle class has been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him, because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues and said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. He never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6 billion for every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases. We paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Daniel?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have.
Your new roof can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. But there's a new program that's sponsoring New York.
Thank you, President Trump. Daniel?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86.
Let's do a commercial for PNN. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight Formula. Why do you need the Goodnight Formula? You need it because if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not getting the REM sleep that you should be getting, then you need to get this supplement. The supplement will get you into that sleep zone where you're getting REM sleep. 3 cycles of REM sleep a night is what is typically needed to consolidate memory, to have a restful sleep, and to detoxify the central nervous system. So a lot of people don't realize that if you don't get proper sleep, then you're not going to have good memory. You're not going to be able to detoxify your cells, and you're not going to have enough energy when you wake up. All right? So if you are having problems with sleep, especially getting into REM cycle sleep, take the Goodnight Formula each night. This has several things in it, but 2 really important are tryptophan and melatonin. But with this Goodnight Formula, you take it if you're not sleeping well, take it each night, and you'll get into those REM cycle sleeps. You'll improve your memory. You're going to detoxify your central nervous system, and you're going to have more energy. Now, chronically, if you do not have good sleep, there is research that shows that a buildup of these toxins can lead to early Alzheimer's or dementia. All right, so it's really important to get those REM cycle sleeps and to have a regular sleep pattern, and not sporadic. In addition, if you notice with people that get enough sleep, they're more vibrant and they age slower. So it's also part of an anti-aging practice. Sleep, go to bed at a regular interval and get, the number of hours of sleep that one would typically need. Different people need different numbers of hours of sleep to get into those 3 cycles of REM sleep. Typically, it's about 6.5 to 8 hours. You don't want too much sleep. You don't want too little sleep. All right. But you want those 2 to 3 cycles of REM sleep a night. And it's going to improve your memory, reduce the buildup of toxins, and it's going to give you that extra energy and vibrance when you wake up in the morning. So if you're having problems sleeping, you need to mitigate that by taking the Good Night formula from my store. All right, take it each night if you're not sleeping properly, and you're going to start to improve your health. So go to the store and get the Good Night formula. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Another part of the protocol that I have is ashwagandha root. This helps to control your blood glucose levels and brings down inflammation, right? This is very important. So take this every day. I take it every day. It's synergistic with turmeric, and turmeric is an antioxidant and it also brings down inflammation. By bringing down inflammation, bringing down the glucose levels, you're reducing cardiovascular disease, and you're calming down your immune system. All right, because if you're chronically inflamed, then your body's wearing down. You're going to have higher cortisol levels. You're going to age faster. So you want to calm that down. So take turmeric and ashwagandha as part of the anti-aging protocol to bring down that inflammation and control your blood glucose levels. In addition, it's very important to boost up your immune system, especially post the 2020 crisis. I can't say this enough. Cancers are going up. Our immune systems are trashed. We need to reverse it. Now, you can reverse it by doing a holistic approach and being consistent. And over time, what will happen is your body is going to be healing and your immune system is going to get stronger. There's no magic bullet, but the thing is that there's things that you can do to improve your immune system. One of the things, especially proper sleep, because by proper sleeping, you're going to get well rested and your cortisol levels are going to start to go down over time. And there's going to be less inflammation because you're getting the proper sleep. But in addition, there are other supplements that you can take to help to improve your hormonal health and your immune system health. Lignans this is a powder that you take, you mix it with your food or with water, take it every day. It's going to help to boost up your immune system and also to help with your hormonal health. It'll help with prostate health for males, and it'll help with the overall health for females. So males and females should be taking this. It'll help with the hormonal axis that we have, and it will help to boost up your immune system. I can't tell you how important it is to take this. All right, it's extremely important to take this every day. All right, you need to boost up your immune system. Trust me on this. You need to boost up your immune system and reduce the endocrine disruption that's taking place just by the crazy stuff that's going on, socially and in our environment. really important. Take this every day. It's going to do wonders for your body, and you're gonna see major benefits in wellness and fitness. So please go to the store and get this product, lignans. Take it every day. Take this powder every day. You're gonna boost up your immune system, because cancers are going up post 2020 crisis, and it's really important to boost up that immune system to fight those cancers. All right. So, and our endocrine system is disrupted too. So it's really important to start, especially when you're aging, as you're getting older, it's really important to maintain hormonal health. So take this product. It's for males and females. It'll do wonders for you. Take my advice, take it every day, boost up your immune system.
At the end of your second term, how do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record, look what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people, and the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 30% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And then guess what? Those fabs, they call them, to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We, with the envy of the world, name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things.
It's not mutually exclusive, Joe. All the countries can be failing, and we could be failing too. The thing is that we are not reaching the main point here, Joe, is that lunch bucket Joe, all right? That's on amphetamines, right? Lunch bucket Joe. Listen here. We're not reaching our potential. And there's the problem, because the Democratic Party is flushing this country down the toilet.
We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he calls up from Kim Jong Un, we sent love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, anyway, just take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest now. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest one I was a 6 handicap of all.
I was a 8 handicap. 8. But I had,
I've seen you swing, I know you swing.
Okay,
Let's
let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III? Let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because of our own safety as a state. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go.
The bottom line is this: billionaires are benefiting from his policies of this never-ending war, and the middle class of citizen is paying the price, either through blood or through treasure. And it's time to stop it. This idea that we're going to go to nuclear war with Putin because he's going to be triggering Article 5 and all that, it's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. All right? That's just warmongering. That's just trying to scare everyone. But we are closer to war, world war, especially if Taiwan gets triggered under his administration because of failed leadership, than anything that we saw with Trump. So do you really want to put your chips on Biden and bet that, everything's going to be okay? Probably not, because he's not going to last. He probably not even going to last to November. He's going to just wither away. He is aging fast. there's a lot of talk that maybe Newsom is going to be brought in to try to save the day. I don't know how that's all going to play out, but he's a bad president. He's a poor president, and he's emblematic of a major issue that's happening in the United States. What made America great, what made America strong and prosperous, is withering away. It's withering away, and if we don't do a correction, if we don't do a correct assessment, and see the problems that we have and that we need to correct it, an over-bloated administrative state, an over-controlling national security state that's affecting domestic and foreign policy, and the erosion of our inner cities and the future generations, their educational level is dropping. Their prowess is dropping. We need to self-correct. He's not a leader for that.
And take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of.
Did you know that by giving to our campaign earlier rather than later, you will have a much greater impact? That is because it takes time to hire organizers.
Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. Not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up by numbers and driven up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none.
I think a lot of the issue was standing issues. In addition, my understanding of the take is that the Dominion machines have never been audited. In addition, their code has never been audited. In addition, you have states or counties that certify, but some of these contentious areas, they haven't audited. And that's where the big issue was, is that it should have been kicked back to the state to do a full audit and machine audit, which hasn't been done. Just because it's certified doesn't mean it's been audited. Those are two different things. Certified and audit are two different things. And that whole 4 a.m. bump, suspicious, very suspicious, right? Something's wrong with those machines.
But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There's no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accept anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia.
It's now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We found ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said, nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in the taxes. We will not, and if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes in the United States of America. What I did, well, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, where it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. We're going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians,
Would you answer one question to help Donald Trump? We're doing a 100% anonymous online poll right now, and we need your help.
like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you. because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was the incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves. And they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump. President.
So that's my coverage of the debate, this post-debate analysis. I think it's very self-evident that Trump won and that Biden is a failing president, and not only that, his health is failing. The bigger question is what the Democratic Party is going to do. Are they going to replace him or not before their convention? It's a big, the probability of a replacement candidate is much higher now. Who will that be? Is it going to be Newsom? Someone else? Who knows? But Trump definitely dominated in this debate, 100%. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive complex. This digestive enzyme complex that I have will help to break down carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. In addition, it will help to kind of reduce that strain on the pancreas, especially when you get older. It'll help you because it's helping to break down carbohydrates, lipids, and protein. It'll help with the absorption. All right. But in addition, this is part of the protocol because it has enzymes in it that are proteolytic that help to break down glycoproteins. That's important, especially in the post-2020 era. And it also is fibrinolytic. They'll help to break down clots. So this is a very comprehensive enzymatic complex. So please go to my store, take this every day to help with your digestion, but also to break up those glycoproteins. And it has a fibrinolytic capability that help to reduce blood clots. So it's really important to take and add it to the protocol. All right. So please go to my store and get the digestive enzyme complex. Take it every day. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description of this video. And lastly, I also have another type of structural nanosilver gel that's in a container, in a dispenser, and you can easily carry this in a bag. Again, it's the same application as the other gel. You put it on your hands, it'll neutralize pathogens. You can put it around your mouth, around your nose, lightly coat your nostrils, around your eyes, your ears. All right. You can put it on a wound. You can put it on an abrasion, on a minor burn. It'll help you heal it. You can use it as a skincare. Put it on at night, exfoliate in the morning. You'll notice that your skin is more rejuvenated. You put it on your face at night and then exfoliate in the morning. You'll notice that your face is tighter and clear. So it's a great product. So please go to the store. It's multi-purpose. It's easy to carry in a bag. It's made from structural nanosilver. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. That's the-studio-reykjavik.com and get the silver gel. Thank you for listening. Please share the links. Please subscribe to all my channels. All the links are in the description of this video. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.